Hey everyone, Tactics here, and in this video I'm going to be going through a plus 28 upper Karazhan run we did. I'll show off the route here, and of course are linked at down below in the description as well if you want it for yourself. Kind of walking you through the different polls we do, and I'll go through the video and just provide some commentary on how we handled each poll, maybe some little tips and tricks on the various bosses that you may not know, and just kind of go through the run as a whole for you guys to see. I'll be doing this for every single dungeon in Season 4. This is just the first one I'm doing, so if you enjoyed this video, if you want to see more content like it, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel to be notified when those get posted. And let's just quickly go over the route here. There's not too much complexity in Upper Karazhan, but one thing I do want to kind of put emphasis on in this key is that the timer, even on higher key levels, is actually relatively lenient. And so because of that, the main thing you're worried about here is wiping on bosses. If you can avoid wiping on bosses, even on a high fortified key, you're in good shape. And what helps you not wipe on bosses? Well, having a ton of stats. And so you're going to see here is that we're going to try and pick up pretty much every Dreadlord we can. We don't skip very many of them. And at the same time, they do give you a little bit of count. So we're going to be trying to do a little bit of skipping. But of course, there's not too much you can actually skip in Upper Karazhan either. It's a little bit more linear, right? So starting off, we do a skip right off the top. We skip this very first ad right as you come up the ramp, the Forlorn Spirit. Just a bit annoying. You don't need the count, but we do end up picking up the Infiltrator and now the new mini-boss spot. So they did move this mini-boss very recently when this video is going to come out. So that's going to be the mini-boss there. Pop all your CDs, nuke those two ads. You can run right down the middle of this carpet. I'll show you the spot in the video to avoid these mobs. No need to invis pot or shroud or anything like that. And then you have this nullifier here, which you can then chain pulls into on a normal week. The video I'm going to show is a bolstering key, so we can't actually make full use of this, but basically this guy gives a damage buff to one person, silences them, you go run, you get your damage buff. So you could chain all this trash into this nullifier, but not when it's bolstering week. You have to kind of kill this guy earlier, so it's a little unfortunate, but that's how you do this. You've got Curator, of course. Moving down here, you got a bit of dodging to do. So we run down, we run around, we pull this Infiltrator, a single bat down here to this Infiltrator and kill them while avoiding this Pyromancer, which previously was the mini-boss, but now is back to being a Pyromancer. Never want to pull those guys. We skip this Flamebringer because he is annoying. He's got a threat drop, stuff to dodge, don't want to deal with that. Got the next boss. Going downstairs then to Mana Devourer. We're only pulling the Infiltrators here. And then we're pulling the boss itself. Remember, the boss does give count. That's what this one is. And then we're doing one pull, again, including an Infiltrator. Skipping this entire last bridge because it's a giant pain. Going down to the chess event. Having someone proc the RP for the chess event while we kill a singular bat. Actually, it should probably be this bat. And then moving on to the last boss. So that's the route. Again, posted down in the description below if you want it for yourself. And let's take a look at a VOD, of course, of us doing this run. It is on 1.25 times speed, just because it's a relatively long key. Don't need to talk about too much. So you can just skip ahead here. The Spirit gone. I'm going to be pulling this Infiltrator, like I mentioned, all the way up the stairs. Notice no one's really hitting it. Just kind of leaving it alone. Don't want to rip aggro from your tank and get hit by the tank buster ability there. We're all just moving up to the big mini boss guy. And we're just going to be popping CDs here. Nuking this guy down. Be careful. The sleep puddles can be a little bit difficult to see here. On like carpet and woods. Just certain things. There was a hotfix. I'm not sure how well it actually fixed the visuals of the sleep puddles. But just like sometimes they can be very hard to see. So be careful. Otherwise, not really too much of this bowl, CCing bats, nuking Zolgamuks, and then finishing the Infiltrator after the fact. You can just fast forward here to the little skip that we do after this. This is a relatively long bowl, but again, it's worth it because of the timer is so free. It's just 4 stacks, right? Lots of stats. Right down, basically the diamonds. If you stand right down the middle of the diamonds, so I'll play it again. Right down the middle of the diamonds, you will avoid both columns. No problems. Then we're pulling this nullifier. Normally, you could then instantly start pulling in new trash. But the problem here is bolstering weak. So because it's bolstering in this key, we cannot do that. So what we do instead is we get this guy down to about 50% HP. And then once that happens, our healer is actually going to run out and start pulling trash in, as you see coming in here. And we're going to cleave this stuff down with it. These worms, of course, are going to bolster everything around here. So the focus on this first pack is called the worms and the nullifier. And just watch that infiltrator again. They don't interact with any affixes, sanguine, nothing like that, not bolstering, so not too big a deal. Now this guy is giga bolstered, but luckily he doesn't really do anything, and so at this point we pull the next pack in. And we're just kind of hitting this guy down a bit, gives us something to hit while we're waiting for stuff to come in. Because bolstering, obviously again, on non-bolstering keys, this is not really a problem. You can just kind of AoE down. You can pull multiple packs even at once. You're not really worried about those 3 worms in each pack bolstering the rest up. So it is much safer, but this is kind of how we have to get around that. So the worms are going to come in, and now our goal here is to cleave these 4 things down, and we're just going to giga bolster this guy up a bit. So we're hitting all this other stuff here. As soon as these 4 things die or getting close to dying, Priest will go out again, pull the next 2 packs in, and you know that is going to be our last pull before boss. So we're getting that guy down, getting these worms down. Priest is going to get ready to go. We now just have a pretty big bolstered single guy who's going to have enough health to kind of withstand us hitting him for a little bit alone. And the remainder of the trash in this room is coming in now. And using good LOS here, because now they're going to start casting out there. That was one problem. We kind of stepped out of LOS for a second. Not the end of the world, but just something to note. Make sure you're using your LOS good. So now we're just cleaving this pack down, focusing on the new mana confluences that came in here. You notice we were moving the skull marker around as we kind of need to adjust our damage. Because there is that one that was here and is now not bolster anymore and it's quite low health. So we're going to end up killing all these worms and that old mana confluence a little bit earlier. So there's going to be 2 bolstered mana confluences. So we're just trying to get their health as low as possible. So you know, they're not too scary and too healthy. Just skipping ahead though, because that's really all there is to it. Killing those guys, moving into the boss. We had a good pat here. You do want to kind of start on this end of the room if you can. It's just the most time save because you just walk into the door at the end here. One thing to note. Notice that I am going to be taunting all of these volatile energies. That forces them to fixate the tank, which means all their jumps will be at me. So a couple things to note of that. So I'll show you these swirlies in a second here. You're going to see damage come out. So that this swirly is not indicating any damage event is about to happen. It matches the same thing as the power discharge swirlies that the boss spawns on each player, but it actually doesn't do any damage. The damage is in the instant that it jumps to the tank, or you know, whoever it's fixated on. But again, you can force it onto your tank by taunting them. You see there, I death grip that one, so it's fixating me as well now. So this swirly is actually safe to stand in. It's just the instant damage that you don't want to be. That's really does show the range of the instant damage, but obviously it shows it too late. So you can see the melee are kind of very far away from me. I'm kind of off on my own on this side, so they don't get cleaved by these instant jumps. And you can see here, I can chill in this swirly. I'm not worried about the swirly at all because it doesn't do damage. It's only that instant tick of damage that they do. And that's what happened, right? That was a double jump. We stepped a little bit too close together with the melee, and it can just absolutely nuke your non-tanks. Tanks, you want to make sure you're taunting these things as they come out. You will be using your taunt button basically on CD in this fight. That's how quickly they do come out. But you see here, we're lusting going into this versification, and we're popping all CDs. That is definitely the play for this guy. You can pretty safely get 3 evocates in, and that's what we do. Look, we're actually wasting quite a bit of space. We could have been way, way, way better with our space over here. We're going to actually almost run out of room by the end of this boss fight. It's a pretty sloppy run for us actually on this boss, to be honest with you. But we don't wipe, and that's all that really matters in this dungeon. But yeah, you can probably pretty safely get 4 or 5 evocates off. Obviously, you don't want the boss fight to really last that long. But if you make good use of your space with stacking and moving, you have a ton of room. Like, look at all this wasted space we have, right? We're going to keep moving now. But again, I'm basically just chain taunting these energies. Melee are staying away from me, and they're just putting damage into these energies. They are the priority targets during this phase. The boss is not really a priority until it's the damage amp phase. And in the damage jam phase, like here at the next one that's going to come up, you're going to see we have a couple of the energies up during this damage jam phase. And they're just being passively cleaved on. Everyone else is pumping damage into the boss itself, and I'm just going to be cleaving, focusing those energies down while that's happening. It's going to be coming pretty soon here. There it is. So we have a couple up. I'm focusing this energy down. Everyone else is focusing damage into the boss, because this is pretty much where we do all the boss damage. And also note, immediately out of the evocation, there's a big party hit, so make sure you have a personal up. And also there's an immediate launch of swirlies. So you can all position these swirlies very, very good. You notice the melee all stack up over here. To put a triple swirly down there, the big party hit almost killing people. And, you know, that just saved us a ton of space. That is pretty much this boss. It's just rinse and repeat. There's not much more to it. It's just you need to be very good with space. You need to be very good with your volatile energy management. And of course, you need to make sure that they're not jumping on top of anyone besides the tank. And like I said, this goes a little bit sloppy for us. I think we end up with like 2 people alive at the end. Yeah, 2 people alive at the end, but it dies. So that's all that matters. And we move forward. So a little hint here. There are rats right behind you here, and throughout the dungeon there are some rats you can get, and this will basically help later on for grouping mobs in the mana worm room, and especially good for slow classes like priest, like death knight. I'll actually rewind here a second to show what we're doing. So basically the next pull here is we're trying to pull 2 infiltrators and a bat together while avoiding all of the other trash. I'll show you how we end up doing that. So the rogue has distracted this pyromancer in a good pat. He's going to end up patting over this way. I'm going to taunt this guy down. I'm going to then death grip this bat over to the bridge area, and then we'll run down here. Don't cast any like pets and stuff. They can get stuck on that lip over there and pull the pat guy. Very, very bad. Experience that firsthand. And pretty much all you need to worry about here on that bat is just stopping its lone cast. It's not an interruptible cast, it's a stoppable cast. It's a frontal breath because it will one-shot you. Fail breath. That's the only thing you need to worry about. Comes fairly infrequently. One person alone, if they have like 2 stops or 1 stop on a low CD, can deal with it. Like we had our priest was able to deal with all of them if needed. But you know, we have other people throwing it out to help just because there's nothing else to really do in this pack. It's just a double infiltrator, single bat, finishing these guys off. And we're going to jump around the side here, depending again on where this guy's pat is. So moving forward, there we go. We got to look at where's Pat. This is the worst possible Pat now, by the way. This is the worst possible spot you can be because he's right there and we can't do anything. So we just have to AFK here for like 10 seconds. Wait for him to pat a little bit more that way. But we can squeeze in the right here. Distract him again to stop him. And then we can just move forward down here. This guy, again, we are skipping. We're just waiting for the quaking timer here. Going to wait to see if we get it. We don't. And so we're going to go. Just watch these diamonds. Going to shroud up. Move right past him. And move on to the boss. Now, because we lusted Curator, of course, we're not going to lust this shade of Medivh here. But honestly, in a coordinated group where you have kicks being called, this boss is not too rough. The big thing here is things like piercing missiles. You can always let at least 1 stack go on your tank. Not a big deal. Infernal bolts, you can always let go on your tank as well. Not a big deal. You want to kick every single frostbite. But also you can do things like dodge certain casts as well. So things like Night Elf Meld can you be used to dodge things. You're going to see here he's probably going to, I think he does a Transcend at some point to dodge an Infernal Bolt. Rogues can dodge as well. Is he going to do dodge? No, he's just going to kick. Basically any big movement ability, I'll try and pause it if I ever see anyone do it. You can go out and then jump back in to avoid the Infernal Bolt cast and just let it go off because it does have a travel time. If you're fast enough. So Guardian's Image here, this is the scariest one now by far, especially after the nerfs to Flame Wreath. And the big thing here is making sure that we don't just pop all our defensives instantly. We want to stagger them slightly, but also remembering that the most dangerous time of this phase is the beginning part while there's 3 birds alive still. So initially it's AMZ and some minor CDs. Once AMZ runs out, then Cloak goes off, and then once Cloak is starting to run out, Diffuse goes off as well. When Cloak is out, the key thing here is that we're never going to kick anything on top of the hitting the rogue, and outside of Cloak, the whole phase, we're never kicking anything that's targeting the tank. So that's an added thing you need to pay attention to when we're doing kicks in this phase, is that if it's ever targeting the tank or the guy who's immune to damage, don't kick it. You see here, like I don't have a kick right now actually, but every time it targets me, I just kind of let it go off. And they're doing the same thing. You're going to see like bolts come hit me all the time. Not a big deal. Tanks can handle it. And when we start getting to one guy, again, it's pretty safe now. We don't want to waste kicks. We're just kind of chilling. We have 2 kicks up still. 3rd kick's regenerating. Inferno bolts on the tank. Don't care. And this is kind of just a rinse and repeat here. Kicking every single frostbites. Kicking or dodging the Inferno bolts. Depending, I think, is the mage going to dodge here? No, kicked. Come on, someone do the dodge. Piercing missile, not a big deal with 1 stack. And even with a major defensive, you can take a 2nd stack as well. It's not the end of the world. Here's the Flame Wreath. It got nerfed, so I mean, it's pretty much just like running minor defensives while you have it. It's not the worst. Oh, did he dodge it? Did he do the dodge? Did he do the dodge? Oh gosh, I think I missed it because I was talking about Flame Wreath. This is like the best time to do like your meld dodges or your ability dodges of the abilities during Flame Wreath, because of course you need to guarantee you kick all the ones targeting the Flame Wreath targets. So anything not targeting the Flame Wreath targets, that's the time to dodge. Does he do it? Yeah, so I think he puts... Yeah, he transcended, right? Yeah, he transcended. Okay, it's over here. Yeah, okay. He transcended to dodge that. You can actually even roll out of it. Oh, I think I perged there. Yeah. Perg there. Don't do that. Don't recommend that. At Icebound, should just press that. But yeah, make sure we're kicking those Inferno Bolts, targeting the Flame Wreath targets, because they don't need to be taking any more damage. Ceaseless Winder, the easiest one by far. You just keep jumping. Continue your kick rotation. And again, the biggest thing here, you're always kicking Frostbites. And I mean, that's really the biggest thing. You're always kicking the Inferno Bolts on the targets of the Flame Wreath. That's pretty much this boss here. Stagger your defensive during the bird phase. I think we're actually going to get another bird phase, which is unfortunate. Because again, this is like the hardest part of the fight, right? This bird phase here, this is the most dangerous part of the fight now for sure. After the Flame Wreath nerf, you just want to be very, very careful. I think we do end up losing someone here. Because we were hoping to beat the DPS check and not get a second one, but it is what it is. But not much else to talk about there. Moving on, we're doing our very long fall. Here it is. And this is where I'm going to use the rat mount that I told you about before. So I'm just going to jump down here, get on my rat mount, and this is going to help me group the 2 infiltrators here. Grabbing this guy. Got a little too close. He did melee me. This book is fake. You can run right through it. Be careful of this rat pat here. He comes very close, like way over. He comes like here. You're going to see like we're going to pull this guy and then keep moving like way away because we do not want to pull that rat at all. We're just pulling the 2 infiltrators here. Cleaving them down before boss. Notice we do have Lust up. That is going to be used on this boss here. And basically this is just kind of a DPS race. Kill the boss before he kills you. And Blood Decay can do some pretty crazy things on this boss because they can just kind of chill with like 10 to 15 stacks of the damage amp orb. And yeah, they do a lot of damage. I'll show you the spot here to tank this boss in. So you're going to pull this boss, and you're going to drag him all the way over into this corner here. Camera is going to go weird for a second, but you're just kind of running this corner, trying to get the boss, turn, and you can see here he's clipping kind of this wall and stuff. That's exactly what you want. And what this does is it forces all the orbs, not all of them, but all these orbs here that would spawn here to spawn in the center of the boss's hitbox instead. And what that means is if someone stands in the center of the boss's hitbox like this, they will soak all these orbs. See there, I just got 6 stacks for free, and the boss gets none. Blood Decays, very, very good for this fight, because they can just Death Strike after each tick of this damage, and it's like they took no damage. It's very dangerous. You can see near the end of this fight, I actually dropped Bone Shield, because I just do not have the globals to not press a generator and then a Death Strike. I just have to keep Heart Striking, Death Striking, Heart Striking, Death Striking. I don't have a global to press a Marrow Rend. It is very, very sketchy. You can play a little greedier until you pop Purg, and then you have to play a little safer, which you can see here in a second. Everyone else will probably want to not have more than 1 to 2 stacks, depending on how tanky they are. Our Rogue kind of sits at like 2-ish stacks. Mage and Monk are, I believe they just get 1 stack and they kind of chill. And in like a pinch, if you're really having trouble, you can pre-AMS to soak the orbs without taking any stacks. The rogue can cloak, that kind of thing. Here, we just kind of get pretty bad spawns of this. So you see I actually am giving up orb stacks to soak this a little bit. You can see I'm at 15 stacks right now, and I'm not getting one shot yet. This is a bit sketchy, of course. You need to remember to death strike after each tick, otherwise you will die, and be careful of the overlap with this AoE, because that is the kind of big party hit. It doesn't quite one-shot you on this level, but you need to make sure that you are topped, because it does almost one-shot you. And of course, this can be delayed by spell queuing a little bit as well. It can be plus or minus like 2 seconds on this timer that we have. So I'm just going to pre-pop defensive CD if you're not popped off. And yeah, I'm just kind of stringing these ones in melee. It's not ideal. I do end up popping Purg there because of that overlap that I just mentioned. And so you're going to see me be a little less greedy here. Now, I soaked those orbs there, those puddles rather, which did decrease my damage taken because I have now less stacks of my damage amp. And we're doing a rogue cloak soak here so that I don't have to get significantly more stacks. He's just cloak soaking, and that way I can be a little bit safer. I do pick up these two coming in. But from here, I mean, it's just like art striking and death striking for your life. But yeah, it does a lot of damage because you're holding 10 to 15 stacks, right? End of the fight here. We don't really have much. I have to kind of stay in this. Oh, I could have probably gotten out of that, but it would have been very, very close. And just death strike for your life. And this is where it's really, really important to time your death strikes and maybe even hold onto them for immediately after a tick happens, just so you can immediately heal back up to full health. And yeah, like I'm not death striking until I take the damage, and I'm immediately death striking back up to full HP, and yeah, 27k DPS in a single target boss fight because of that. Pretty good. Not bad. Not bad. So we're just jumping down here. Watch your pets, of course, and we're pulling this pack here with one other pack of Mana Devourers. Again, bolstering week here, so we're just kind of cleaving these Mana Devourers down evenly, and we're kind of evenly spread out around the pack to catch those orbs that are going to spawn. Of course, if they reach the pack, bad news. If you catch them first, damage amp, so make sure you catch them first. But yeah, just cleaving this pack down evenly, spreading around the thing, catching orbs. Not much else to it. We're moving past this to the hallway that we skip. Never do this hallway. It is the worst. It is actually the worst. There is an infiltrator here, and I believe this is the only infiltrator in the entire dungeon that we skip, by the way, just because he's on the bridge. There's so many bats. These pyromancer mobs are a giant pain. That other good dude has like a big knockback. Don't want to deal with that. Don't want to deal with that at all. So we're going, and we're going to chess. Going to chess here, and we're nuking the knights. Be careful, King does still melee here. He's still swaying in a way, so melee DPS, you need to make sure you're never actually in the melee range of the king. And whenever this blue square pops, no matter what's happening, even if you're about to kill the king, even if he's like about to go immune or whatever it is, that blue square is always real. So always get out of it. It does just murder you. So we're killing knights here. I believe we end up stopping a little bit because we're trying to two-phase this guy, and so we end up putting a little bit more damage into the other knight here, and just kind of passively cleaving this guy down a little bit. It'll make our lives easier to kind of get our second phase of the vulnerable king, and we're just waiting for CDs to regen a little bit here. So that guy jumps away. I believe at this point our CDs are regened, and we go in, we hit the knight, and we pop everything on this guy. And our goal here is to kill this king after we've killed both these knights. So once we've killed the second knight, king, our goal is to have him at 30%. Once he's at 30%, he does not go invulnerable again, so we're safe. So have the 31% burn there, or 40% burn there, so we have about 30% more to go in our next burn. Watch that. Don't get stepped on. It does hurt. Pain. And we're kind of slowing down a little bit here. I believe we wait about 20 seconds to have our next set of CDs back up. A bunch of 1-minute classes. Mage Saw there was just hitting the king a little bit to regen CDs. And so we're hitting the knight here. Again, blue square is real. I'm going preemptively so the melee don't get meleeed, because sometimes he does swing at people on the way in. And we are just blasting this guy with the goal of getting him to 30%. before he becomes invulnerable again, which we're successful at. So he is going to come back up and he's just going to start swinging again, but he's not going to go invulnerable again. And that's one of the bigger time saves you can do in this dungeon, especially on a big fortified key like this. And so that's why we did that little bit of a delay here, just to ensure that we have all our damage going into the actual vulnerable phase. We killed the king. Mage would go proc RP. I believe this time he actually doesn't quite proc the RP. He moves too quickly. But he goes to proc the RP. We kill a bat. This gives us the remaining count while the RP is being procced. And then we can run once the bat's dead. And this door would be open, but turns out he forgot to proc the RP this time. But that's what would happen if we had done it correctly. This door would just be open. It'd save you a bit of time, like 20 seconds maybe. And then we're going to the last boss. So let's talk last boss. Something very interesting here is that diffuse and spell reflect, even from DPS players, is very strong. Be careful of when you taunt here. You see the monk actually did just taunt. Be careful. You can, if you taunt a little bit too early, and if you're maybe a little bit too close to the boss, get meleeed just before this burning blast goes off as well, which can kill people. So be careful. But he's going to just take this, and he has a personal running, so it doesn't one-shot him, and then he'll instantly diffuse it back. Warriors don't have to worry about that. They'll just spell reflect, and they don't take any initial damage. But monks obviously do if they're diffusing it. So he just diffused it. And yeah, just look at his damage go up. Yeah. That's from diffuse. And again, warriors can do this with spell reflect as well. The safest is a prot warrior, of course. Prot warriors are taking the boss anyways, so they can spell reflect that fairly often. Diffuse is a 1 minute and a half, whatever it is, CD. So it takes a little longer to do that, but it's a little dangerous, especially coming from DPS. So just keep that in mind. But that is a significant damage boost here. Other than that, we're just avoiding the beams, of course. This fell beam will still go off, by the way. So be careful if you get this second fell beam or even the first one, you're pushing the face, whatever. It does still go off, even if the face is pushing. Just keep that in mind. And now we are going to milk this boss a little bit here. So basically, if you don't touch this circle that the boss is on, he will not actually phase. So you can see there, our mage is just hitting the boss. We're a little bit slow here, so we just call for another wait. So we're just literally chilling here, waiting for him to cast his next disintegrate. Mage is just blasting him. As soon as it starts, then we go in, because he will finish this cast. So this gives us a bunch of time where we don't have to deal with mechanics. And depending on your setup, like if you have like a double or even triple range setup, you never need to push this boss, or phase this boss rather, which means you never need to deal with mechanics in P2. Even if you have 2 ranged, it might be worthwhile to just like hit this boss down, especially if you have this much time, right? You can just hit this boss down and till like 35% and then step on the thing, so you never have to deal with like the double orb dispel here, which I believe we do get. We'll see if we get it in a second here. But otherwise, yeah, it's just the same fight here. Just disintegrates, get kicks. Yeah, we do get the double dispel, and see we spread out here. Using immunities will auto dispel yourself, by the way, or you can just let time out. It does tick fairly hard, so up a defensive if you have the one you're not getting dispelled, and they move opposite sides. We just kind of move through them. Push boss here in a second. And then we're going to the final platform, which we have saved Lust for. We are saving all CDs for as well. So at the end of this phase, you know, people are just holding stuff. Because it's pretty spooky. So you're going to jump down. Bats are going to be randomly pelting people. We had our priest get pretty bullied here, I think. Yeah, he got bullied a little bit. That's okay. But we run through, pick up all these sentries, bring them under the boss, pop Lust, pop all CDs. And the goal here basically is to never get your set of 3 orbs. Is to just kill this boss either during this cast, ideally, or shortly after it, so that you never get the next set of debuffs. Basically, and there's big cleaving down here, all CDs, Lust rolling, everything's going, disintegrates, normal, right? The normal stuff is happening here. The 3 orbs is spooky. You can sack like a DPSer by having like jump off the edge to help deal with that if you see fit. But otherwise, if you kill it fast enough, this boss really doesn't do anything on this platform. If you're slow, it can get pretty scary. So keep that in mind. We killed it fast there, but it can get much more difficult if you end up killing them slowly. So I definitely recommend saving lusts for that last platform. But there we have it, guys. My walkthrough of a plus 28 upper Karazhan in Shadowlands Season 4 with the Shrouded Seasonal Affix. If you enjoyed this video, guys, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like it. I'll be doing videos like this for all of the Season 4 Dungeons and Shadowlands, of course, into Dragonflight and beyond as well. You can also check me out on my Twitch channel where I stream all this stuff at Tactics. And if you have any questions at all, I'm more than willing to answer them there or in the comments down below. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.